I grew up in a quiet, working class neighborhood just outside of Chicago. The kind of place where kids still rode their bikes until sunset, and old couples sat on their porches, watching the world go by. But if you ask anyone who lived on my street about what happened one summer night when I was 16, they'll get quiet real fast. I was walking home from my best friend's house, cutting through the neighborhood park like I always did. It was late, maybe close to midnight, but the park was lit by those old buzzing streetlights, giving everything an eerie yellow glow. I was halfway across the field when I heard something strange. A voice, muffled, coming from beneath me. I stopped walking, looked around, and then I heard it again. A whisper, raspy, wet, drifting up from the storm drain by the curb. Help me. I froze. The hairs on my arms stood up. It wasn't the kind of playful, stupid prank a kid would pull. There was something desperate about the noise, something wrong. Cautiously, I stepped closer, crouching near the grate. My eyes adjusted to the darkness below, and I saw movement. A pale hand, thin, filthy, gripping the bars from the inside. It was almost like something out of the movie It. The fingers were too long, too bony, like they belonged to something half dead. Please, I'm stuck, the voice whispered again, wheezing. A sickly smell drifted up, rotting, damp, like something had been left in the sewer way too long. I gagged and instinctively backed away. That's when I heard the scraping. A horrible, slow dragging sound, like nails against concrete. I realized, with a growing sense of dread, that there were more fingers appearing, curling around the grate. More hands, too many hands. I scrambled backward just as something shifted below. In the dim light, I caught a glimpse of a face, or at least what should have been a face. Hollow, sunken eyes, a mouth stretched too wide, lips cracked and wet. But it wasn't just one mouth. There were more. Dozens of gaping, twitching mouths, all whispering the same words at once. Help me. I ran so fast my vision blurred, my heart hammering so loud I could barely hear the thing below screech as I left. When I got home, I slammed the door shut, gasping for breath. My mom looked up from the couch, startled. "What's wrong, sweetie?" she asked. I couldn't answer. My mind was still stuck on what I had seen. On them. The next morning, I forced myself to go back to the park. In the daylight, it all seemed stupid, like a bad dream. When I got to the storm drain, my stomach dropped. The grate was missing, and on the pavement leading away from the opening were long, wet streaks, like something had crawled out. I never took that shortcut again. But sometimes late at night, when the wind is just right, I swear I can still hear the whispers. Help me. I grew up in a small, rural town in Pennsylvania. The kind of place where everyone knew each other and nothing ever really changed. But there was one road, Old Mill Road, that always felt wrong. No one built houses there. No kids rode their bikes. It was just this narrow, cracked road lined with trees that seemed to lean in too close. When I was 17 years old, I made the mistake of driving down it late one night. I had just finished a late shift at the diner where I worked. It was raining, and Instead of taking the long way home, I decided to cut through Old Mill. My headlights barely cut through the thick mist hanging in the air, and I had this strange, suffocating feeling, like the road was pulling me in. Then I saw it. A house. It was sitting back off the road, past a small clearing. Old, abandoned looking. I had driven this road before, but I had never seen that house. The porch light was on, flickering, and in the upstairs window, a figure stood perfectly still, looking out. I should have kept driving. Every instinct told me to, but instead, I slowed down, trying to get a better look. The second I did, my car's radio crackled, then cut to silence. The engine sputtered, and then every single electrical system in my car shut off at once. I sat there, gripping the wheel, heart pounding, watching the figure in the window. My eyes adjusted to the darkness, and that's when I realized it wasn't standing inside the house. It was pressed against the outside of the glass, and it was staring directly at me. A horrible chill ran down my spine. My fingers fumbled for my phone, but the screen was dead. No service, nothing. Then, movement. Not from the window, but from the trees. A shape was emerging from the woods to my right, slowly, deliberately. It looked human, but wrong. Too tall, its arms just a little too long. I barely had time to react before I heard a sound that made my stomach drop. The click of my car door unlocking. I hadn't touched the lock. Something was inside my car. I didn't think, I just moved. I grabbed the handle and shoved the door open so hard it nearly knocked me over. The second I hit the pavement, my headlights flickered back on. The engine roared to life, and the second the lights came back, the house was gone. No porch, no window, no figure staring out at me. Just trees. I could not believe what I just saw. I didn't stop running until I reached the main road. When I finally got home, I locked every door and window. The next day, I tried to tell a few people about what I had just saw. The older folks just shook their heads. "There's never been a house on Old Mill Road," one of them told me. "But you aren't the first person to say that you've seen one." I never went back, and to this day, I won't drive down that road. Because if I do, I don't think I'll be lucky enough to get away a second time. I was 24 when it happened. I had just moved into a small apartment on the edge of the city. Nothing fancy, just an old building with thin walls and a single creaky elevator. It was the kind of place where you kept your head down and didn't ask too many questions about the neighbors. I worked nights at a security desk downtown. By the time I got home, the hallways were always dead silent. That night was no different. It was just past 3 a.m. when I walked in, tossed my keys on the counter, and collapsed onto the couch, too tired to even change. Then my cell phone rang. It was an unknown number. Normally I would have just ignored it, but something about the timing of it all made me uneasy. Half asleep, I answered. At first there was silence, then breathing. Heavy, like someone was pressing the phone too close to their mouth. "Hello?" I said, sitting up now, my exhaustion replaced with a creepy unease. More breathing, then a whisper. "You left your door unlocked." I shot to my feet. My eyes darted to the front door, closed, latched, the deadbolt still in place. I grabbed the nearest thing I could use as a weapon, a kitchen knife. "Who is this?" I demanded. Silence. Then the line cut dead. I stood there, frozen. The apartment felt smaller, like the walls were pressing in. I checked every window, every closet. Nothing. But sleep wasn't an option anymore. The next night, the call came again. This time I didn't answer, but a voicemail popped up almost immediately, hand shaking. I pressed play. The same ragged breathing. Then a single word. "Watching." I didn't sleep after that. I barely even stayed in my apartment. I told myself it was just a prank. A cruel, random prank. But then 3 nights later, I came home to something that made my stomach drop. My front door was unlocked. I was 1,000% sure I had locked it before I left for my shift. My hands trembled as I pushed it open, the knife already in my grip. The apartment was silent, but as I stepped inside, I noticed something. Every single cabinet in my kitchen was open. The fridge, the drawers, even the ones I never used. And sitting on my computer was my phone, screen lit up, a call in progress. The number? Mine. I couldn't breathe. My skin crawled as I picked it up, raising it to my ear. No breathing this time, no whispering. Just a low chuckle. I ran. I left everything behind. I called the police from my car, but when they arrived, the apartment was exactly as I had left it. No open cabinets, no signs of forced entry. My phone sitting nearly on the counter with no call history. I never went back. I moved in with a friend that night and broke my lease the next morning. But sometimes late at night, my phone still rings. And when I check the caller ID, it's me.